Hello everybody and welcome back to Dreamhack Winter 2013. This is day one of the final tournament of the year for Dreamhack. It is of course the Dreamhack Open, live from Jönköping in Sweden. And we are about to get into our next game here, and we're going back a little bit from Group D now to Group C.
It's going to be quite a match. Taeja from Team Liquid versus sOs, the Woongjin Stars Protoss that has basically been just destroying tournaments recently with that BlizzCon victory as well, taking second place recently as well in the Red Bull Battlegrounds that just happened in New York City. Both very strong players. I
am so excited for this game. This could arguably be the final of this tournament right now. We saw sOs throughout the year, this year, started strong in Season 1 of the World Championship Series, where he was almost able to take a victory up there. But through Season 2 and Season 3, had a bit of a dip in results. Players figured out how he was playing, and he couldn't quite get the same results. And he came to BlizzCon as, who the hell is sOs? He's not gonna win, get out of here. He won BlizzCon. He then went second place at the Red Bull Battlegrounds as well, back-to-back, incredible results. But this player on screen has been having one of the most successful years ever. He's won 4 major StarCraft tournaments in basically back-to-back succession. He won Home Story Cup 7, he won Asus Origi Summer, he won Dreamhack Bucharest, and then he just won another Home Story Cup. 4 tournaments in just a couple of months. He's looking unstoppable at this moment.
Taeja's a pretty damn good Terran player. As far as any matchup goes, he's been one of the hardest guys to kill as well, which kind of shows in the way that he likes to play, very macro-heavy oriented. And versus a Protoss player that likes to get aggressive, I think that's a skill that's going to prove to be very valuable in this best of 3.
And so far, both of these players within their respective group have won their first game. We saw sOs beat down Show 2-0. You could arguably say that was an expected result from sOs. And then we saw Taeja beat Innovation 2-1 not too long ago. But there is sOs, the current world champion of StarCraft 2 with a massive victory at BlizzCon. And then that second place, losing out to Parting in the finals of Red Bull Battlegrounds. And he is here at Dreamhack Winter to continue his performances. If he's able to pick up a super high finish place tournament, there's a lot of doubters surrounding whether he is the best player at the moment in StarCraft 2. And I think that would silence them immediately if he was to be able to do well in such a good tournament like this.
Yeah, especially considering the caliber of players in this tournament. I think whoever wins this, you could say, is definitely among the best in the world. But the first map, Derelict Watcher for Terran versus Protoss, I think this is a pretty solid map for both races overall. Any thoughts before we go into the first game?
Not really, to be honest. I think, it's like you said, it is very balanced between both sides here. And I think throughout all of this series, it's really going to come down to who is the better player here. And it's not the better player overall. It's not who's had the better year or the better StarCraft 2 career, who's older, who's shorter, who's taller. It's none of that. It's actually who right now on that stage, you can see both of them over there, who's the better player right now this minute. Because I think the better player in the next hour will win this series. It's kind of simple, really, if you think about it that way.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if sOs has any tricks up his sleeve. Looks like we're going to be starting this reasonably soon. But I have to say, just the way that both players like to play out in this style, it's going to be a fun match no matter who wins. And looks like we are counting down Derelict Watcher. As I said, our first map to start, and let's get into it. Spawning in the top right position of the map. The red Terran player from Team Liquid taking those big tournament wins. Can he continue it here? It is Taeja. And he's up against this gentleman, considered a world-class player, 1 BlizzCon from Team Woongjin Stars. It is sOs.
Who do you favor in this series? Who do you think? Who do you think will win?
I honestly, you look at the way that Taeja can play out the long macro game. Unless sOs can really make some sort of early pressure work out, Taeja's macro is damn near impeccable, and he's one of those players that if he can eke out something a little bit more greedy, he's more prone to do that than some of the other Terran players like Innovation. So I feel like it comes down to a big balance between what sOs chooses to do in the early game and how Taeja reacts. But I think the longer this game goes on, the harder it's going to get for sOs.
I would have to agree with you. I really think that Taeja is going to win this series. I have a strong feeling that he will. SOS has shown a lot of repetitive playstyles when it comes to Protoss versus Terran. I think he's very easily readable. He likes to use oracles early, first of all, and he always goes towards Templar play. He does switch it up to Colossus here and there to, you know, confuse his opponent, to play around with his opponent a little bit, but he loves to go Twilight Council. It's his favorite tech choice, and I wonder how well that can be exploited here from Taeja in this series.
Yeah, I mean, he does have just the one gas on the way, and I like that you bring up that Templar, Twilight Council play. There's so many different options that you can go with. I think you've even seen some like 2-base, very heavy charge lot Templar play from him. This probe is moving out. The second gas now being taken. And here's the question, because this probe is not headed straight to Taeja's base. And I feel like there's a distinct possibility we could see a little bit of trickery. Maybe he's checking for a potential hidden barracks placement, but that doesn't look like he's scouting for any proxies, Apollo.
Yeah, I think he's going to be throwing down that Stargate very shortly once that Cyber Core is finished, and we will most likely here just see this Proxy Oracle play come out once again here by SOS. And it's a style that he's used in and out, and there's the pilot, and I'm sure that Stargate's going to come down here. But if we look at Taeja, he's opened up Command Center first. He's got double barracks. This SCV's not quite going to spot anything up there, just narrowly passes it here. You think that Taeja can escape with minimal losses, or you think he's going to take a lot of damage to this?
It's really, really tough. Command Center first, sure, you get the fast 2 barracks. You can put out Marines very quickly. But the amount of time that it's going to take to get 6 Marines is just what you need to just take on an Oracle head on. And we have to consider that SOS doesn't really need to engage. The Oracle moves very quickly. There's 2 bases, so that means the Marines can't cover both bases at once. It's possible that Taeja could try to rally his units in. Now he comes in and he sees the setup. The Mothership Core's on the way. 2 pylons.
No research on the Cybernetics Core immediately. It's all leaning towards a proxy Stargate here, and I think he's going to be expecting this now as well.
So he's got 1 Marine out. 2 more going to complete reasonably soon. In the time that it takes for that Oracle to complete, he should be able to get at least 2 more and be halfway done to the next 2. So it really comes down to the positioning of his Marines. He can hold this with the Command Center first, but it's going to be incredibly difficult to pull off. He sees the Nexus hasn't started yet, and I think this has got to trigger in his mind that what could be coming, but these Marines moving out on the field feels like a very dangerous move from Taeja.
Yeah, he's taking a big gamble. I mean, if the Stargate's over there, great. Maybe he can get close to it. Maybe he can shut it down before the Oracle's out. But as we see, it's on the other side here, and Marines are not in position currently. And that Oracle could do a lot of damage into that mineral. And look how juicy it looks, all that metal and junk.
And the Marines are moving out. This is such a tense situation. The Marines out on the field. The Oracle's coming into the natural. What is here to defend? There's nothing. There's no Marines at all. The Oracle immediately comes in, activates that pulsar beam, and we're seeing the SCVs just drop left and right. He's already got 4, 5, 6 SCV kills, and this is just a fantastic spot. The Marines moving across the map, but he's got an Oracle here. The Nexus will be done. There's nothing he can do. GG.
That's simple. That's simple. That's how to beat Taeja, everyone. If you want to beat Liquid Taeja, that's how to do it. You proxy a Stargate, you build an Oracle, and you win the game. Good start.
Command Center first, it's certainly possible, but when you make that SCV scout and you're playing versus SOS, you see there's only 2 pylons and there's 2 gas geysers. Like you said, the Warp Gate research starting after your SCV arrives. You can't afford to take risks like moving units out onto the field. Taeja was doing something that was kind of like a little maneuver that MMA did earlier on. You saw a bit of Marine poke versus the Protoss, but if your opponent opens up Oracle like that, you don't have any Widow Mines to defend. You don't have that Reaper play to get you the full scouting information, and you just die.
And that's exactly what just happened to that man on screen. Liquid Taeja just died straight away. Oracle was inside and the game was over. But now going on to the next map, I think we can just call that our write-off. That, you know, there was nothing there. It's not a game that Taeja would want to remember. And I think in his own mind, he's going to look at this series as a 0-0 and just be looking for a 2-0 lead in his own mind. But it is SOS now who has just 1 game away from going 2-0 against Liquid Taeja to further himself within this tournament to fight for the higher seeds within Group C. Is it going to be as easy as game number 1? Something tells me no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting as to whether or not Taeja thinks SOS would do the same thing again, because Akalon Waste, the next map, is a map that I could see Taeja opening up Command Center first on. If Derelict Watcher is a map where it's less common and he does it, I mean, who's to say that he wouldn't? But I guess that begs the question, what do you think SOS is going to do on this map?
I think SOS may use his aggressive image now. I think it's going to be one or the other. I think he's just going to go very simply for another Proxy Oracle in hope that it is, as you say, a double command center where he's hoping his opponent will think that SOS wouldn't do it twice in a row. or he just plays incredibly normal here.
Yeah.
Super normal.
I can't really disagree. It's really weird, the level of mind game that can come into play if Taeja's like, well, if this doesn't come in, you know, even some other aggressive builds you could do versus a Terran on this map like Blink, Command Center first can do reasonably well with that with how fast your production is set up. So we're here, we're on Akalon Waste, and we're about to find out if this man in the top left can even things out. Spawning as the red Terran player from Team Liquid. He's down 0-1. It is Taeja. And his opponent getting a pretty quick win with that Proxy Oracle. The blue Protoss player from Team Wunjin Stars. It is sOs.
Okie doke. So, what does sOs want to do this time? sOs has had a lot of different builds that he can open up with if he wants to mess around and really play some mind games and keep being unpredictable, whether it be a 10 gateway opening, whether he does go for the same build again here. What do you think that sOs is? What do you think he's going through his mind after that easy victory? You think he's like, all right, nice leg up in this series, let's go back to normal, or do you think he'd just kind of accelerate from what he started with?
Well, the thing is, and we're already seeing Taeja's a very flexible player, choosing to go with a very fast gas. There's an option here for a fast Hellion drop. He could do any type of mine drop. And he's kind of saying he wants to take a bit more control of this game. He's not going to open anywhere near as passively. But as far as sOs goes, this is a map that's kind of always favored Protoss versus anyone. It's easier to take that third base if you want to take the pocket base. Even the outer base is easier to defend. And is the fourth base, the late game just always looks good for Protoss on this map. The 4-base setup is among the easiest to get in any map that's been in the pool in any pool for any tournament this year. So the probe's going to go out with a fast scout. We can see the direction of the probe. He actually wants to scout. This isn't necessarily going to be another proxy, checks for the fast command center. And I'm wondering if he takes a second gas or if he just slows it down a bit and goes for the very quick nexus.
Well, he's going to see this late barracks now, isn't he? He's going to understand that this has been a refinery first in this game. So I don't think he's going to try to be aggressive here. We'll just play on the defensive stance because he knows that Taeja sacrificed a little bit of economy to be able to get up to this barracks and the chance to build the factory immediately once it's complete. And we're potentially going to see Taeja play a little bit aggressive in the early stages here. And sOs going to have to start thinking about setting up a defense against what doesn't really know what's coming, but knows that something at least is going to be heading his way soon.
Yeah, I'm wondering what sOs thinks about the positioning of these buildings, since it's kind of set up where it looks like if there's an add-on built at some point, the barracks has to produce it because of the way he placed the factory. Is it going to be a quick reactor for either a Hellion drop? Is he going to just? Yeah. I mean, he's still probably going to put down the starport once that factory completes. I feel like mine drop is probably one of the safest gas first builds that you can do, just because you can theoretically have a very fast Widow Mine if your opponent was doing some sort of fast Oracle play, and that's what it is. The starport starts, the Widow Mine as well, and this probe just wants to see when or if anything moves out the front.
All right, and he's just sitting there, nice and tight on that Team Liquid badge. sOs. He's going to have to throw down that robotics facility immediately here, realizing that absolutely a Widowmine threat is possible. And he's going to have to get those, or at least a single observer out, at least one, potentially two. And SCV does move down, and sOs does spot it. Doesn't see anything else for the time being here. And even Hellions after this as well. This is quite a bit of dedication to resources from Taeja into this. I think it can work. I think he can crack a hole somewhere in sOs.
There's a lot of potential for a build like this to do damage early versus a Protoss, and you know, it's not just because I coin flip like this on ladder all the time, but this build, you use the 2 Hellions basically. One of the most powerful types of attacks that you can do versus a Protoss on a map where the main base isn't completely covered by a photon overcharge is trying to drop the ramp space. There's a lot of different angles that Taeja can try to approach this from. He can press the front, use the Widow Mine to try to just blow down maybe one of the quick stalkers and gain an early win. He can push the ramp, maybe drop inside the main and run the Hellions in at the natural at the same time. It's a good way to stress the Mothership Core, because this early on you can't have enough energy to use both the photon overcharge on both Nexi. And like I said, the ramp, neither Nexus can actually reach that. So there's a lot of different ways he can approach this. And from the Medivacs angle, it looks like he's going to try to just bring that drop in and run the Hellions to the natural.
Let's see how successful this is going to be. Taeja needs to get some damage dealt here. And already the probes are being pulled back here. Taeja spots it. Widowmine does put itself down. Hasn't found anything yet. Well, he's found the Mothership Core. And that's trying to get away here as these Marines do get picked up so far, nothing's really been damaged yet. A couple of probes here on the natural are going to get picked off, but I guess that's so far a pretty good hold here from SOS.
It's very important that he forces the photon overcharge on the natural expansion, because if he's able to get that position in the main base, which he's been forced out of it, but it means that if he can actually get on top of this, he still has that. I guess he's going to leave the Hellion away, but he still has that potential to kill off some of these units, since the photon overcharge isn't covering the bulk of SOS's economy. Behind this, Taeja's adding on barracks. He's building add-ons using that starport and that factory, so he can move pretty quickly into a stim setup. He even has the reactor on the barracks. So at this point, it's all about doing damage for him, but SOS is actually going to go double forge as a response to saying, I don't think I'm not taking really any damage from this at all.
He's lost just a couple of probes here. The medevac almost gets picked off there, and a nice pickup there by Taeja evacuates. But at the end of the day, only 3 probes were killed for a big investment. The probe difference between the both, 28 SCVs to 37 probes. A massive difference. And then put on top that we see SOS going double forge here. There's going to be Taeja, who's going to be very late with stim and combat shields because of the dedication towards the factory and starport early. There's no way for him to pressure anytime soon. This is a good setup from SOS here. I think he's going to be feeling very comfortable with the position that he's now in and spotted with the observer there.
Yeah, and he knows everything that's going on. I mean, if he saw that swap, then he knows just how late this stim is starting. He's been getting in the concussive shells before the combat shield, just in case he needs to do a little bit of defense. But I think you make a great point about the way that SOS has responded to this, because he knows that this is not something that's easy for a Terran to just go into 3 command center out of. So the double force play, not really punishable, but it also lends itself to the Twilight Council, which you'd mentioned being a very preferred level of tech for SOS, much more than the Robo. He had the Robo facility, but we don't see the Robotics Bay. There's Charge. We could see that Templar Archives, and maybe him try to go for some sort of +2/2 timing attack.
Yeah, there's a lot of options here from SOS to choose from, whether he just sits back and plays the game out very long, plays very defensive, takes a 3rd base soon, gets up to 3-3, and just plays a very passive game until the game is where he wants to finish it with. But a scan does come in from Taeja, does reveal the double forges and the Twilight Council, so a good scan from him. And he does realize what he's going up against. But can he do anything about it? That's the big question here, because with the late stim, he does have a medivac or 2 medivacs full of units, but with 1-1 about to be done, with the mothership core with a photon overcharge available,
he's going to try to bring this double medevac drop in. There's not really too much space to be found. These Stalkers do more than enough of a job to just ward this off. Without the stim, you don't really quite have that punch you need to take out this Protoss army just yet. And as you stated, if he does actually commit to either one of these bases, the photon overcharge is available. And if he overextends, there's also the potential of a time warp being used to lock him in. 2-2 is starting out, the 10:30 mark. The Templar Archives is about to finish. A Warp Prism is coming in. Charge is less than a minute away. And we could see SOS really bring some heavy aggression back towards the Liquid player, who still doesn't have anything like, he's got just his 1 engineering bay going with his upgrades, no 3rd command center yet. He's actually going to move straight up to 5 barracks. He wants to try to power up economy to match this upgrade lead of the Protoss player.
Big drop here, 4 Stalkers. I think they're going to drop on top of those. 4 Stalkers aren't really going to stop 4 medivacs full of units. And a big drop here by Taeja. Where are the units of SOS a little bit down onto the natural out of position? They will come back. Charge is almost done. This will help out a lot to defend. A good move here by Taeja. He's got a lot of damage done, and he has found a way. But one thing to note, when... Oh, High Templar don't get to the Archon either. But all this is actually going quite bad here for SOS. But what I was going to say, when using the Twilight Council and Templar Archives, it frees up the robotics facility. That counterattack from the Warp Prism is a big potential to do something good here.
Yeah, it's about as good of a trade as Taeja could have possibly gotten, and it also reveals to him that he's gone for the Templar tech. He has the Warp Prism out, but all he has is Sentries and an Archon. The Photon Overcharge is going to try to help this, but at this point, there might be enough bio to barrel through this. Zealots being warped into 2-2 is close to completing the Archon. Even the probes being pulled to try to stop this assault. The Archon is dead, stepping up the ramp, focusing on these Sentries, and the probes with their little tasers are trying, but I mean, Taeja's got too much here. He's building another Widow Mine inside of his opponent's base, and I mean, he doesn't have that much army left over. Once the Photon Overcharge wears off, it's already worn off in the main base. He could jump straight back in there if he wanted to.
All right, let's find out if SOS can hold on. He's going to have some good upgrades soon, but he needs to keep holding on for now. But it looks like Taeja's putting a lot of pressure on his opponent. Photon Overcharge is still going on that natural nexus here. Archon manages to escape. Can he hold on? Because that Warp Prism, I think, is somewhere close towards that main base. It's going to come out to play soon, but can he hold on?
I mean, this is the perfect anti-timing for Taeja. 2-2 is about to finally complete. Will really give these Zealots a lot more staying power versus this Terran army, but he's still producing these Widow Mines. Might actually kill the Mothership Core with that Widow Mine, and he does. And with no Stalkers, he can kite versus these Zealots. It's like, okay, yeah, you've got the upgraded lead and charge, but this factory actually acts as a really great way to mess with the AI. The Zealots have to run around it to attack this Bioforce, and Taeja with the Death Rally constantly pushing across. sOs trying to build a defensive Photon Cannon will not be enough, and Taeja ties the series after what seemed to be a completely botched opener.
Just through one massive drop, awesome control with the units, he's able to turn it around in an instant. Something that I don't think anybody really expected to happen there. A great move from Taeja, and a game-changing move, because I think if that hadn't have been that move, what else was there for Taeja to really get back in the game solidly?
It's one of those really cool things, because not only was Taeja able to obviously exploit the positioning of the Stalkers and just use that massive drop to get in and secure that lead, but also all the resources that sOs was investing. Yes, he had a pretty good build, but going for the double forge, he had the 2-2 on the way, he was getting art, he was going for the Storm, he was also going for the High Templar. I mean, he didn't have that much resource to invest into the standing army, and once Taeja got that position in the main base and took out the anti-air, there wasn't really much that sOs could do. He just got completely knocked over.
All right, well, we'll find what's going to shape up in game number 3. It's going to be on Whirlwind here for both of these players, and this is a map which we've said time after time after time, Terran players do like to go for that early command center, which we saw Taeja attempt on map number 1. Do you think that sOs can play to that image a little bit? Do you think that we could see another Oracle play like before?
You know, when you kind of look at the way that first game panned out, Taeja did a very early Marine move out, and we saw MMA try that on this map as well. It was against a much less aggressive build. I think looking at the way that first game ended, though, Taeja's much less likely, if he does open up with a fast command center, to move out. So I don't think he's at as much risk, since a Protoss player on this map, much less likely to proxy the Stargate and more likely to maybe get it after a quick Nexus. So I honestly think Taeja could get away with a command center first pretty easily on this map.
All right, well, let's see what's going to happen here as we're about to load into the next map between Liquid Taeja and Wunjing Stars sOs. This is a quality game here, and let's hope for a quality finish for it as well.
Yeah, it's time to decide who moves on, or at least gets this match. Spawning in the bottom right position of Whirlwind, the red Terran player just tied it up after a pretty failed aggressive opening from Team Liquid. It's Taeja. Pretty good show. A very fast probe scout being sent out by sOs, and this might not just, I don't goodness knows what this is for, but from Wunjing Stars in the southwest, the blue Protoss, it is sOs. How do you feel about this early probe? He's going to proxy gate. This is
probe. The first pylon of the game is on the other side of the map. He's taken a risk, whether on Whirlwind, if you didn't know, you can spawn in any of the corners here. So technically, Taeja could have been top left. But Taeja is bottom right. There's 2 locations which this pylon is obviously very close to, the bottom right and top right. And we are going to see a gas first come out here, which is going to obviously delay the barracks. The gateway is down at 10. And this is obviously super aggressive. We're probably going to see the gasman taken up behind it, right? It's going to be like a Zealot Stalker play off 10 gateway.
So this is a pretty powerful attack that sOs can bring. There's 2 things working against him, though. Not only, obviously, the scouting. He has to find out which base Taeja's at. But the distance from the gateway, it's not like one of those Akalon waste maps where you can get it really, really close to the Terran player. This build that Taeja does with this fast Widow Mine after the barracks, the timing of this Widow Mine, if he starts it as soon as that factory finishes, against the 10 gateway, that Widow Mine we planted at the ramp as the Zealot and Stalker are approaching, and that's on much smaller maps. If Taeja puts this Widow Mine at the ramp, I don't see too much of a way for him to get overwhelmed early on. It's going to come down to the control and just how aware Taeja is of the potential game situation.
Well, the Zealot is being chrono boosted out here. The gas has been taken back at home for sOs. How is this going to shape up now? Taeja has absolutely no idea, but he is scouting in the correct pathway, which is good for him. If he'd gone top right, I think it would have been a lot worse, obviously. But the factory's on its way now, and sOs knows where his opponent is. The gateway's rallied down. The second Zealot is on its way. We have a single Marine about to pop out now. There is not a second one to help it. If Taeja messes this up with his Marine control, it's going to be very difficult to deal with.
Honestly, Taeja's going to be thanking his lucky stars he didn't go for a command center
He didn't
first.
scout properly down the bottom left. Taeja didn't see SOS. He went in but didn't see anything on the front door and turned around. He has no idea what SOS. He's got no idea what he's playing against.
Oh, wow. This is very weird. I still think that the way that this opener is set up for Taeja, he can still defend this without scouting. He should be able to pick this probe off. I don't think he saw the factory.
This has been hidden.
So the Widow Mine's on the way. It's headed over there. The Stalker's going to be coming out in just a few seconds' time. It's about 30 seconds before that Widow Mine comes out. The Widow Mine, against an attack like this, it guarantees you 1 kill against something. Worst case scenario, that Widow Mine hits a Zealot that splashes against Taeja's own Marines. But now he scouts. He's like not in the top left. And he's gonna be pretty sad realization when he finds out that SOS is in the bottom left the whole time.
2 Zealots and a Stalker against 3 Marines. The Widowmine's gonna help out great, but where is it gonna be positioned? And Taeja's like, how is this happening to me? Taeja's in a lot of trouble right now. The Widowmine is placed. Nothing so far. The SCVs are coming off the line. Is this gonna be the move? Is this gonna be the play that could give SOS a heads up? The Widowmine runs down the natural ramp here. It's gonna leave the 2 Zealots and Stalkers to run around in the main base here.
And I do like that he moved the Widow Mine down there to prevent any reinforcements from coming in, trying to lose as little as possible. SOS has killed off 3 SCVs. He's got the Hellion as well. So I think now that he's realized, he scouted the top right, I think he realized he didn't scout far enough towards SOS, grabs the Stalker with the Widow Mine. This is really nice because the drop play he follows up with, even if he rushes for the Mothership Core, now he has a robotics facility, there's nothing at home. He's got 1 gateway that's proxied. He's building another Stalker at that gateway, so at most he'll have 2 at home. The second one is actually rallied towards Taeja's base. He's going to drop a Widow Mine and 2 Hellions, leaving the Marines back to defend against any other possible attack. But I still feel like this could do catastrophic damage with good micro, but I'm assuming he's going to have to pull the probes to do something against this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's got 1 Stalker at the moment, and this drop's ready to rock and roll. A Widow Mine and 2 Hellions. And Taeja just goes right past it here. How much damage are we going to have dealt counted over here?
Widow Mine starting to plant itself. The Hellion's doing some damage. Not able to kill it off. Widow Mine grabs 2 probe kills. Nothing super crazy just yet. Hellion's managed to grab a 3rd, and he really hasn't done a crazy amount of damage to this just yet, but the economic investment made by SOS into this, every probe he loses is pretty much worth gold. It's 22 SCVs to 22 probes. The Protoss player, I mean, both of them are still on 1 base. So.
I mean, yeah, it's almost equal in that regard. They both invested a lot to attack initially, to counterattack. Neither of them have poured out significant damage, and both of them are going to fall back to an expansion play here. And both of them have very similar tech. You know, 1 gate or 2 gateways now with a robotics facility, the barracks, starport, and factory, and the game calms down.
Very weird opening. An intense way for Taeja to kind of figure out what was happening as he got such a late scout. But I have to say, I mean, just based off the way that he was going to play this earlier, I'm really happy he didn't open up at the command center first. Adding on the additional barracks now. He's used the tech lab, he's going to use the factory and the starport to build tech labs for his barracks so that he can get that stim and combat shield. And now just 1 Forge on the way. I guess SOS is just going to play this out very standard. Yeah. I think he's kind of realized being too greedy versus Taeja actually can kill you, even with a Mothership Core. Taeja's not afraid.
But I guess one good thing here is that Observer's out a lot faster than it usually would be in most games here. And he's able to go in and see everything, but we do have the medivac with quite a few Marines here. Great force field there to push back the Marines from getting inside the main base here. They shouldn't be able to get too much or anything done to that Nexus. The Mothership Core and a couple of units are there, and they will get pushed back. But this game, as you mentioned, stabilizing. It's going to move on. It's going to play out normally. I suppose that if patterns repeat themselves, we'll see a Twilight Council play coming from SOS eventually. He spots the stim and combat shields, or at least in his mind, combat shields or concussor shells. But it's the robotics bay here, not the Twilight Council coming down. What do you think about this for SOS? It's obviously not his favored play style, but where do you think he's going to go with this? Is he just going to play a regular Colossus-based play and just play out normal? Or?
I think off a single Forge, it makes sense. He's upgrading the armor, so he's not taking the most aggressive stance towards this game. It's not going to be anything like a very quick +1 Colossus attack or even +2 attack. He's taking the gas and the natural. I honestly feel like after that first game, he's respecting Taeja a little bit more. When you rush for Storm, your vulnerability is towards the drops if they can get inside. And as this is another map where the Photon Overcharge doesn't completely cover the main base, he really has to respect the potential for Taeja to bring those drops yet again.
Yeah, it definitely looks like SOS is going to take a defensive standpoint for the majority of this game. Get up to that Colossus and hopefully defend against the inevitable push out when Stim is near completion. And now Taeja just trying to figure out a little bit as well with this medevac, see if he can get some information, any structures he may see, some units he may or may not see. Well, that's the next part, I think, of this game, is Taeja really identifying what he's playing up against. He will want to start Viking production pretty soon in this game. An early Twilight Council here. No Thermal Lance has been invested into either, by the way. And is he just going to quit after this single Colossus then without major investment?
He could just add on a second forward, try to make that Templar switch. Taeja picks off the Observer in his natural. Pretty nice. And now he's going to load up 3 medevacs. Are we about to see this this same circus that we had on Akalon Waste of just these Marauders and Marines? Just the endless drop play from Taeja to try to just gain a huge advantage. Warp Prism is on the way, so this is a similar look, at least in the overall direction. As you stated, there's still no Thermal Lance. I think you might see that Temple Archives. Yeah, there's the charge.
He's switching up now. A hallucinated Oracle is going to come in here, and not fooling anybody today, but this drop is quite deadly. And let's see how much damage is going to be done. SOS does not see it. His units are kind of there.
And he's got his whole army postured to honestly catch this. And Taeja's like, no, I'm going to drop on it anyway. The paratroopers moving in. The Zealots doing a pretty decent job at cleaving at this. But picking up the Colossus and the War Prism to keep it alive. Smart play from SOS. The Micro's going to allow him to keep this tier 3 going.
Hey, pretty nice play there from SOS. Fantastic pickup there. And he does deal with that. And that probably was like, Taeja, well, all right, let's get rid of that Colossus and then clean up everything else very shortly. That War Prism saved SOS a lot there. Excellent move, excellent play.
Taeja threw away quite a bit of resources in that, and I feel like if this game was even, it's got to be SOS feeling really comfortable now. As Taeja can recognize that he has the War Prism, sure, but SOS moving out. Taeja's trying to see what's going on here at the potential third base. The Templar Archives, however, is coming in. The +2 armor as well, and charge. So SOS really hasn't deviated from his overall desire, at least that we saw in the last game with the Templar play. But he's taking a much safer route towards it, at least as safe as you can go after a failed 10-gate attack.
And even Immortal thrown into the mix, realizing that there is a lot of Marauders out there and a lot of pressure inevitable eventually. And he has not got Storm yet. That's the most vital upgrade here for SOS. And Taeja is going to move forwards. There is a +1 armor attack here. There is that +1 attack, though, actually, for Taeja, so it doesn't really matter. And High Templar really puffing out their feathers. They do not have Storm. That's going to go straight over to an Archon here. And Taeja, once again, knocking hard on the front door. Oh, he doesn't get the Archon. Almost does.
2 hit points on that Archon. Very close to picking that off. Would have been a really nice score, but Taeja just seems to be... It's kind of funny because he's hammering in this pressure. He's behind on the resources lost, but he's still maintaining a supply lead, really just endlessly churning out this bio. His 3rd command center is about to complete. Still sitting on just his regular 5 barracks setup. So he's just continuing to pressure the natural. He has to be careful. The War Prism is about to hit his main base.
All right, we'll have to follow that very closely as the pressure continues here for Taeja on the front door. And here comes the Warp Prism. A couple of Zealots drop down and a big warp in. A nice counter move here by SOS. Gets into the mineral line and will start to bring down these SCVs. They're not moving, so a lot of them are dying there. But a couple of units do come back to defend. But on the other side, it looks like Taeja was up towards that Nexus, but does get pushed back once again by the Photon Overcharge.
Yeah, Taeja tried to dive the Colossus, and still no luck. That Colossus is quite the survivor of this game. And the 3rd Nexus is on the way for SOS. So Taeja's pressure not able to do too much. Those +2 Zealots, though, cleaved quite nicely into those work. He's got 11 SCV kills at this point in the game. Not terrible for SOS. And it's more so about keeping the Terran back. That War Prism is still around. There's still the threat that SOS could come in with a huge warp, and those +2 Zealots are so hard to kill, especially with workers. And Taeja, he's actually got his he's got 2-2 just now starting, looking to take that 3rd base, and SOS knows this. And finally, the proxy gateway finds itself dying.
Yep, finally realized where that was placed down much earlier on in this game. But the army difference between these 2 players is pretty significant, I think. There's a quite a large army here for Taeja, and he's got a big supply lead between the 2. It's 84 army supply for Taeja, 43 for SOS. That's a big... It's double here, so these Storms that he basically only has, he's only got that 1 unthermal Lance Colossus. Only 2 High Templar there, though. Down on the natural. I don't think that SOS can keep this 3rd base alive.
And this is
going to be able to
really
keep
tricky.
the game alive.
It doesn't matter how much Taeja throws away. He's always got a huge army. Snipes the Templar, barely losing anything to that Storm. And like you said, that Colossus without the range isn't going to be able to get a really nice engagement. The Photon Overcharge is activated. Is it enough? Taeja trying to just press through more Zealot Warpins. Those +2 charge lots doing everything that they can to take this damage. The Archon gets picked off. There's still a ton of Marauders behind this. And it looks like SOS is shoving Taeja back temporarily, but he's just moving outside the range of the Photon Overcharge. Oh. There's the Storms he was looking for.
Yeah, it does push Taeja back for now with feedback on that, but I think if Taeja changed his direction a little bit, went to the top left, he'd probably find that third base and pick it off quite easily, as SOS isn't going to come down to the low ground to defend. He's got minimal units here, and SOS is going to lose his third. Taeja will unlock that, pick it off quite easily, and that's going to give Taeja a substantial lead in this game. But oh, SOS has moved down to defend it.
Taeja, so he split off 2 Marauders to check for the army coming, saw it and dove on it. Taeja is just saying, aggressive play, I'm a very difficult player to kill aside from that Oracle. But man, you know, after what seemed like that was a very, very clean first, like the way that Taeja just immediately just tapped out in that first game. He's just saying, look, let's get into game 2 and 3. I'm ready to go to business. This is not going to happen again. And well, there we saw it there at the 2-1 comeback over SOS. I'm impressed.
Yeah, nice play there by Taeja, and he does pick up that victory. And that now pushes him, if I'm not mistaken, 2 games won, 0 loss so far. SOS is now 1-1 within his group. 1 game won, 1 game lost. And the struggle continues in Group C. A fantastic group, arguably the strongest.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's one of those groups. It's basically all Terran versus Terran except versus SOS, and SOS falling down to Taeja. I think that's a pretty nice. It's pretty nice. It's something that if you're a Terran player, especially watching, and you see deal with the Protoss aggression, Taeja just shows how ways to kind of just deal with that. And he really says he's one of the few Terran players you watch him playing. Like, there's a mothership core in this game. He brings the aggression. He doesn't really care.
All right, well, we'll be going over to the winners interview in a moment. Did you think that Taeja would win that then? You thought secretly inside as a Terran player yourself? Or were you feeling SOS?
As a Terran player that generally speaking has, you know, doesn't feel terribly great about the Terran versus Protoss matchup, after the first loss that Taeja took, it looked pretty bad, especially after that failed mine drop. But I gotta be honest, how fast he got the concussive shell to chase the Stalkers when he made that big drop, I feel like all these tiny things Taeja does, he just somehow always has more units, no matter how much he throws away.
All right, so let's now head it off for the winners interview with Smix.
Thank you, Sean. And before I start this interview, I want to just start with a quick little Taeja clap. I'm glad Taeja joined me, because when I asked him to clap with me, he was like, oh, no, I can't. He was being shy, but I'm glad he joined me. Now, I'm sure many of you guys were looking forward to that series as much as I was. SOS recently crowned the WCS 2013 champion, and with Taeja on our recent tear lately, I really was looking forward to see how this matchup would turn out. And it turned out Taeja came out on top, so congratulations, Taeja, on beating SOS. I have to ask you, recently with SOS being claimed the best player in the world by many, even though he did lose to Parting last weekend, I'm curious to see how you felt going into that series and how confident you were. 네, 이해했어요. Okay.
네, 일단 굉장히 최근 기세가 좋으시기 때문에 제가 질 거라 생각했는데 이렇게 이기게 되니까 굉장히 기쁘네요. 네.
He says, because SOS has been on such a tear lately, I really felt that I was actually going to lose. But since I won, I'm actually really, really happy. And when Taeja smiles, he means it, because he didn't even smile after winning Home Story Cup. So, so yeah, he means it. Now, I actually wanted to talk to him about this 3 series. It started out with the proxy gate, and I wonder if that kind of took him off guard a little bit or shook him up a little bit. 이제 그 첫 번째 경기에서는 그 전진 예언자로 졌잖아요. 그것 때문에 약간 좀 자신감이 흔들렸나요? 아니면 그냥 잊어버리고 그냥 두 번째 경기는 새롭게 시작하자 그런 마인드로 했나요?
그래가지고 제가 빨리 지친 이유가 두 번째 판을 빨리 하려고 빨리 지친 거거든요. 그래가지고 딱 생각하니까 딱 이기네요. 네.
So I asked him about that first game because it was a proxy Oracle build, and he pretty much GG'd right away. And he says the reason why he did that was because he just wanted to get on with the next game, because he knew that game was pretty much over as soon as he saw the Oracle in his base. So he says he thinks that's why he was able to go into the second game with such a fresh mindset and win. Now this game, this group that he's in, many people have called his group the group of death. And it's not for no reason. The group is insane. It's Innovation Show, Taeja, SOS, and 4GG, and I believe it's rightfully called the group of death. I want to see what Taeja's thoughts are on his group. 많은 사람들이 죽음의 조를 가졌다고 이렇게 얘기를 했는데, 이제 많은 선수들이 엄청 어렵잖아요. 그래서 조를 봤을 때 무슨 생각을 했는지.
망했다라고 생각했어.
So he says, actually, when I saw the group, he thought, I'm so screwed. 그래도 이제 그 정말 잘하는 선수로 이겼으니까 조금 더 자신감은 생겼나요?
뭐 항상 자신감은 있는데 뭐 자신감이 더 생긴 것 같아요. 네, 조율이 할 수 있을 것 같아요.
So I said, you say that you thought you were screwed, but you just won against SOS, an amazing player. Does that help your confidence a little bit? And he says, yeah, I mean, I'm always pretty confident, but I think this definitely helps a lot. And now I think I'll actually get first in my group. Taeja, congratulations again. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. Guys, when we come back after this short commercial break, we'll have an EGTL match, Jaedong versus Hero, so stay tuned.